this episode, we go into the next three videos of the Visual Shock series. That is Celebration, Visual Shock 2.5. We go into Shigeki 2, which is Visual Shock Volume 3. And we also go into Say Anything, the X Ballad Collection, Visual Shock Volume 3.5. The great thing about talking to Jeremy is that he is not only as obsessed with X as the rest of us, but he's also a drummer, so he can give us some really, really great insights into Yoshki's equipment and his playing style, and it's something that I've really enjoyed talking to him about. So anyway, let's get back into the next part of the chat with Jeremy.
Okay, so Visual Shock 2.5, Celebration. And this was released September 1st, 1990 on VHS and Laserdisc. Reissued along with all the rest of the Visual Shocks on September 5th, 2001 on DVD.
Mm-hmm. Keeping in mind this was well and truly over a year after Blue Blood was released.
Right, and as we'll note, most of the songs on this were re-recorded from the Blue Blood versions. For this, they did Celebration and Weekend. Weekend was released as the single version of Weekend, but Celebration, as far as I know, has never been released as an audio-only release. At least the re-recording that is on this.
No, there's no single for it. And well, I don't know why. Maybe the intention was to release it as a single. I mean, they've released a video cassette with the music video on it, with a re-recording of the song. One would think that at one stage they were probably thinking about or expecting to release it as a single.
Mike, that's what I would suppose, but I don't know. It's kind of confusing. There's you would think that maybe the re-recording of Celebration would have ended up on one of the compilations later on, but to my knowledge, I mean, out of all the ones that I have that have Celebration on it, which I think is maybe just Starbox, and that's definitely the Blue Blood album version on that.
Yeah.
So I don't think aside from this and maybe some of the other videos where they use the re-recorded Celebration, I don't think it's out anywhere.
All right, let's get into this video. It's
oh my!
You know what? I think it's easily the corniest video, not just by X, but probably the corniest video I've ever seen.
I've seen lots of that. Yeah, it's definitely quite a bit. But yeah, this is definitely the one. I would not show this to my friends if I was trying to introduce them to X. I'd probably go with something later, like Dahlia era stuff. But this is 1990, and I assume that this was probably shot in early 1990. It looks like 1987. But it's funny because at this point you can tell they definitely have started to move a lot of their operations to America, because there's two actors in this, a little girl and a sort of housewife-ish mom in this, and they're definitely American actors, or maybe they're American expats living in Japan. I'm not sure. Yeah. But the outside shots, they all kind of look like they're Los Angeles.
And let's talk about that intro with the little girl and her mother. Firstly, absolutely atrocious acting. You don't expect people in these videos to be winning Academy Awards, no. But it's horrible.
It's scraping the bottom of the barrel. The dialogue is so bad, and the girl starts off by listening to X on vinyl in her bedroom. Now this is 1990. So I would imagine even in Japan, it would probably be a cassette or a CD by this point. But I mean, whatever. And then I also noticed she has all of the previous Visual Shock volumes on Laserdisc. How would a possible, like, maybe 8, 9, 10-year-old girl have a Laserdisc player?
So this was the beginning of X trying to project that overseas image, I guess. So basically, little girl's listening to X on vinyl with headphones. Her mother comes into her bedroom, starts, hassling her about going to her lesson. And incidentally, the little girl's name is Cinderella.
Who would name their child Cinderella? Clearly, this is a script that was written by Hide or Yoshiki or someone from X or
Yeah.
their organization.
Yeah. And also, I think we've talked about this before. The dubbing of the voices is out of sync horribly.
Yeah, the only part that I noticed actually was legitimately recorded on the set is maybe the first little bit of dialogue from the mother when she's making the pancakes. Like, come have your snack. It's time to have your lesson. All right, pancakes are not a snack. I'm sorry, that's a meal.
It's just the stereotyping Americans, so.
I think so. Yeah. They think that we eat a ton of food, which, it's probably not completely off base, but come on, pancakes for a snack. That's a large stack of pancakes.
So the mother and the daughter start having an argument, and I think she starts quoting Toshi, and
oh yeah. See, the mom says, all I hear from you is this XXX. No, I'm not going. I want more freedom. And then Toshi also says to be free.
Yeah. Oh, and incidentally, there are Japanese subtitles, I think, on the left-hand side of the screen, almost completely incorrect to what is being said in English.
Are they trying to somehow get in the ballpark of what's being said in English, or is it just comically completely different, like just contrary?
There's a bit of both. There's some things I didn't write notes on that part, but some parts were not even the same sentence. So then, after Mum loses the plot, daughters, I think, says, "Somebody help me." Hide appears as a wizard.
You wanna freedom?
Yes.
Let's go to heaven.
And then utters the classic line, "You want freedom? Let's go to heaven," which is really, really creepy for a 20-something-year-old Japanese man in a wizard costume. That 10-year-old girl.
And then she gets into a limousine with him.
And the driver is Toshi.
That's right. Wearing his leather cap.
Yeah, and also you have drunken Pata sort of
yes.
stumbling around outside. Also kind of creepy given the whole situation.
So anyway, then the song proper begins.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, everybody, if you've seen X Clips, this is a much longer version of this video by far.
Right.
And it's way less cut down.
Yeah. And of course, we said before, the new version of the new recording of Weekend, which is much cleaner. It's a nicer recording. I'd say it would have probably been done the same session as Weekend, perhaps.
Sonically, it sounds just like Weekend as far as the drum sound and the overall sort of better production and warmth of the production. So yeah, I would imagine so. It would make sense that they would probably knock both of them out.
Hey, in Celebration, the new version, did you notice there's some really cool kind of honky-tonk piano in the second verse?
Yeah. It seems like they had a little bit more time, which is kind of confusing considering that X was pretty much go during the Blue Blood and Jealousy periods. But it does seem like a lot more care was taken and a lot more little bits and pieces were added to Celebration to kind of give it something extra.
And so going back to the video, to me, looking at the band's image, this is the first major change of X into that band that we talked about in the last part of the episode when we said that they look like a gang that would beat you up and then do your makeup.
Right. Now they're all starting to get a little bit more individual. Taiji kind of was dabbling in that sort of rock and roll cowboy image, but now it's definitely fully taken form, and Yoshiki is now Princess Yoshiki in this
For the
one.
first time.
For the first time.
Yeah. And literally Princess Yoshiki.
Yeah.
Toshi and Hide for the first time were kind of brushing their hair up and over instead of just up, which was something they both took through to Jealousy as well.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of a weird period because this is almost like there's a lot of similarities to this halfway point of the Blue Blood promotion cycle, if you will. It does kind of bleed over into Jealousy because this kind of stays pretty much, this visual look mostly stays the same all the way through Jealousy.
It is. It's the beginning of new X as compared to old X, I guess. That's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, it seems like they're a lot more refined and polished. I mean, maybe that's why they re-recorded Weekend and Celebration to kind of signal like we're really, really polished now. There's some live footage in this video too, and I'm not sure where that's taken from. I think it's taken from some of the various live clips leading up to this.
And Yoshiki with a red kit in this video.
Yeah, and this is that famous red kit that he often smashed. And I'm not sure if Tama just continually supplied him with red kits. This is an Art Star, a Tama Art Star kit. I can tell from the lugs, and those are very, very expensive. So he must have had a really great endorsement with Tama at the time to just have them give him incredibly expensive and at the time top of the line drums to just beat the hell out of.
Wow. And he really did too. You know, there's nothing fake about what he used that hi-hat for.
Yeah, the hi-hat was the axe.
Yeah,
to basically chop up every drum shell.
And something else I noticed about Yoshiki in that video, and it's the only time I've ever seen him do this. He was twirling his sticks at one point.
Yeah, he also does that in the beginning part of the Weekend video before they actually start playing. But you're right. The Celebration video, he actually twirls them while he's playing. And maybe that was something he's like, oh, maybe I should add a little bit more extra show to this. And then he realized he can't do that and actually play his parts correctly. It's really tough.
But saying that, like the video, when I said it's the corniest video I've ever seen, I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. Once you're an X fan, you don't cringe as much.
Yeah, because it just ends up being fun if you're coming at it from being an established X fan. You just kind of roll your eyes and shake your head and laugh because it is fun. This video is very, very fun. I mean, come on, the things like throwing blue paint out of wine glasses. What is that about? Most of this is just, I could see Seinfeld, if he were an X fan, he'd just be like, what is the deal with fill in the blank? Fill in the blank, because this video was just endless WTF moments.
Okay, so there's a bit of destruction at the end. We didn't actually even cover Yoshiki coming out of the...
Princess Yoshiki coming out of the carriage. This isn't... I think that there's a section, an interlude, if you will, that was added to this that my guess is that it wasn't recorded in the studio and they probably just recorded the string quartet on set. String quartet, a carriage rolls up, and Princess Yoshiki walks out of it. And by Princess Yoshiki, I don't mean Yoshiki just being, I don't know, the diva, if you will. He's literally dressed up like a princess with long, slow-motion shots of pretty Princess Yoshiki. No stabbing this time, though.
No stabbing, but he did throw a shoe.
Which, even Taiji picks it up, and it seems like he doesn't quite know what that was about either.
Yeah, that's right. Gives it a little kind of flip in his hand.
And they're back to business.
That's right. So anyway, that video ends with There's a little girl back in her bedroom.
Mom, it was a fun lesson.
Yeah.
What is this lesson?
And then I believe her voice is overdubbed at the end saying, "I'm never satisfied."
Oh, so creepy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the overdub thing, her lips are saying something else completely.
Yeah.
What was she really saying that they overdubbed "I'm never satisfied" with? Did they change their mind later on? No, we want the girl to say "I'm never satisfied." So on to the Weeknd promotional video. This one is also on X Clips. They don't really cut this down for X Clips. There are a slight few different edits in the X Clips version. I think it's mostly just some different non-studio footage.
Now in this video, every member of the band dies, except for Toshi. Toshi doesn't die.
The sole survivor. So I noticed that most of this, we've seen the making of footage and certain other bits of footage that ended up in this in some of the previous videos.
Now this, of course, also being the re-recorded version of Weeknd. Fantastic version.
Yeah, this is the version that when I became an X fan, this is the first version I heard. And so when I eventually got Blue Blood, I was kind of disappointed by that version because this single version has a new bridge section, different guitar solo, entirely different guitar solo.
Yeah, different guitar solo. The bridge section is just, for the most part, Toshi and a string section, as opposed to the whole band.
Yeah, and a bit of piano.
Version. Yeah. Great version. Look, overall, I actually love this video. Again, there were a couple of kind of corny things,
Yeah.
but overall, I think it's as good as most things that were coming out at the time, I think.
Yeah, I think that this was probably for the time period, from what I remember of music video in 1990, pretty on par with a lot of metal and hard rock videos. I don't think that this would have been embarrassing had they randomly decided at that time to go international and try to get this thing on something like MTV's Headbangers Ball. This probably actually would have been pretty in step with all of that.
Alright, let's go through the video. There is not so much of the band playing in the same room together in this video. It's very much individual scenes and developing the characters of the individual members in this video.
Right. And this is enter the Yoshiki pearls and lace era. And
Yeah.
but we get lots of cool shots of Yoshiki's drum kit and different angles. I mean, it's not like just straight on a stage, which is kind of cool because you get to see sort of a bit more of Yoshiki's actual technique if you're a drum nerd like me.
No, it looks really great, his footage.
Yeah, and it's kind of a sepia tone filter that they have, color filter that they have on all this. I don't know if I would say it's necessarily sepia, but it's definitely some sort of color filter that kind of makes it a little bit more yellowy gray. It's pretty much all individual shots, as you said, but then there is a point when they go to the guitar solo and you see Pata and Hide together in the same shot. But aside from that, yeah, it's all individual shots. So you could surmise that, oh, well, they just did it all on different days and they don't like each other or something, if you want to draw that far out conclusion.
There is a side story going on with each band member as well.
Right.
Now, eventually, the situation that each band member are in, they die. So, except for Toshi. So we'll start with Taiji. Taiji is obviously having an argument with an ex-girlfriend.
You do see him say why when it looks like she's breaking up with him.
I remember back from 91, a girlfriend of mine, she cried every time she saw that little moment. She loves Taiji. And every time she saw him saying, why? She would cry. Every time. She loved him. So, in the end, someone off-screen shoots Taiji in the stomach and Taiji dies. Next, Pata. The only way that Pata could die, ever.
Right. Alcohol.
Alcohol. Pata drinks himself to death. And you know what's cool about that? Someone comes up to him at the bar and kind of really vaguely tries to wake him. Can't. So just pushes him and walks away.
And Pata's dead.
Hide goes crazy. And although he smashes up a whole room, but it doesn't actually show you how he dies. He just dies of craziness.
Which sounds legit.
Yeah. And last but not least, at the end of the video, stabby.
Bleeding everywhere.
Bleeding everywhere.
Wearing white, just so you can see all of the blood.
So Yoshiki kills himself, slashes his wrist with a rose-handled knife, and
that's the only way Yoshiki can do that.
That's
it has
right.
to be with roses have to be somewhere involved.
So yeah, he slits his wrist, and we don't know if he actually drowns in his own pool of blood, or if he bleeds out. And as a side note, Toshi, when he's singing, there is something quite amusing going on behind him, which is people are throwing buckets of red paint on the wall behind him.
And if you watch really closely, you can kind of see the shadows
of the people throwing the bucket. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably the only part of the video which I think kind of let it down, because it's just obviously people throwing buckets of paint on a white wall.
And it looks like they green screened it or something. It has that sort of weird late 80s, early 90s cheap version of green screen.
But that's my only negative about that video. I think it's a great video. I know it like the back of my hand. While we're talking about it, I'm actually visualizing like pretty much every second of it. You know?
Yeah, I've watched that video so many times.
Okay, third and final song on this video release is the live version of Endless Rain, which was recorded live at Budokan on the 4th of February 1990. Now, if I'm correct, this is actually the B-side of the Weeknd single.
I think so, yeah. This sounded really, really familiar when watching this for the first time, because the first time I'd heard Weeknd was on the X Singles compilation, and this being the B-side to that is also on X Singles. And yeah, it's pretty much just the video version of the B-side of Weeknd.
Yeah. Now this is one of those big ballad compilation montage videos that X do a lot. A lot. But at this stage they hadn't done too many.
No, and this is actually, there's a lot of really cool just random footage from the Rose and Blood tour. It kind of looks like a bit of a, if you weren't there at for the Rose and Blood tour, here's just a brief overview of things that happened.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I noticed. Well, first of all, I'll talk about the piano in it. At this stage, Yoshiki is only using a keyboard still.
Right, I noticed that too. And
it's the same keyboard.
Yeah, the Roland keyboard.
Yeah, that he did that terrible keyboard solo in Bakuhatsu Sunzen. Was it Bakuhatsu? No, it was in Visual Shock Volume 2.
Yes.
So we can get a decent sound out of that piano, that keyboard.
Yeah, and I think he's actually using that keyboard on the CBS Sony audition, and that sounded fine on that. So, yeah. Oh, Yoshiki.
There's a brief clip in that video where Taiji has his arm in a sling. Did you see that?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was just maybe some sort of muscle sprain or muscle issue. You have to maybe keep that elevated when he's off stage, because I don't think they canceled any shows on this tour.
Like I said, in the last part of the episode, I love seeing the random footage of them on little stages and playing all these kind of cameo gigs. For the first time, and you see it again in the future, but for the first time thus far, you see X all wearing Santa Claus outfits and walking out on stage. But that's cool. But Toshi's got the eyebrows as well. He's got these big-ass white eyebrows. And I lose it every time I see it. It's so funny.
I never noticed that before. I always remembered the Santa Claus bit, but I never paid much attention to the eyebrows. Now you've ruined that video for me, and I will probably laugh hysterically every time I view it from now on.
Yeah, it's very quick, but these big puffy eyebrows. It's so good. So good.
Then we go to the credits,
Yes.
and they list the Rose and Blood tour staff, and there are no Western names. So we have yet to get to the point where they're hiring lots and lots and lots of Americans and Europeans to work for them.
Which is about to change very soon.
Yes.